Hi folks, welcome to the week 2 focus video for MH510 Alpha in the fall of 2024. This week we're going to be talking about popular versus academic history. We're going to be talking a little bit about integrity in the profession and your paper topic options. First, some reminders. Be sure you look at the Course Cafe, read my postings. Might help if you acknowledge those so I know that yes, you did in fact look at how I want you to do discussions and so forth. Subscribe to the Course Cafe to ensure that you get all the updates and reminders from me with regard to, for instance, the weekly focus videos. And be sure that you don't attach documents in the discussion and no imagery, at least in the primary post, sometimes maybe in peer-to-peer responses. Okay, be sure you footnote to the Chicago Manual of Style, 17th edition, chapter 14, notes and bibliography style. Your primary posts are to be a synthesis of the reading in response to the discussion prompt. A synthesis implies at least two or more sources. A synthesis is more than a single source. Your first primary is due Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. and the second is due this week Thursday, but not later than Friday at 11:59 p.m. I'm still giving you a little bit of grace in week 2. Your thesis statement, a 1 or 2 sentence answer to the discussion prompt, needs to be upfront right after you restate the question and followed through in the essay as you expand, explain, and defend your thesis. Be sure to spell check and grammar check. Use Grammarly, but don't let it use you. All right, week 2's questions. This week's readings and discussion focus first on the differences between popular and academic history, and second on scholarly ethics, with an interesting case study that doesn't examine the typical issue of plagiarism. How does scholarly academic history differ from popular history? How do academic historians differ from popular historians in how they approach the subcraft? Although there's 2 questions here, roll those 2 together. Give me the differences between popular and academic history, and then how do academic historians and popular historians differ in how they approach the craft as a single compound complex sentence, or as 2 sentences, but give me both of those answers right up front. That's your thesis statement for your discussion post. Second question, academic integrity and ethics continues to be an issue with both students, perhaps to be expected of those just learning the craft, but more troublingly with members of the profession itself. Whether we're speaking of the Holocaust denial movement, issues of plagiarism, or the deceptive use of sources and outright fabrication of the Belle Isle incident, these cases periodically but seemingly inevitably besmirch the profession. Using the case of Michael Belle Isle and Arming America, examine the evidence in the readings, especially the report of the investigative committee. What standards of the profession did Belle Isle not uphold? Why did most of the profession rally around him? And what does this case tell us about the value of intellectual diversity within the profession of history? Belle Isle's case is really interesting. Okay, some warnings about this week's readings. You have to tease the information for DQ1 out of the reading. It's not there in the open. Look for subtle clues and nuance. Think about how scholarly historians write differently than do popular historians, how the types of evidence they rely on differs, how the citation of evidence differs, how the goals of the authors differ, and how the intended audiences differ. You may find some very negative opinion of popular history. This is partially professional jealousy, but also tied up with the misuse of history for propaganda or political ends, a charge which is sometimes also leveled against some academic historians, as we shall see as we move through the course and perhaps this week's second question. Popular historians can be excellent historians. They just write differently and with a different purpose. Think of Barbara Tuchman, David McCulloch, Cornelius Ryan, John Toland, Rick Atkinson. British history and history books can be a bit more interesting to sort out than American works. Many scholarly British historians, especially in the field of military history, write what might be considered popular history in the U.S., so we need to consider them as exceptions when we try to sort out the differences. Feel free to dig out some other sources for DQ1 and 2. There is a lot on DQ2. The usual requirement for scholarly sources this week is not hard and fast, especially with DQ2, but do not overpower the required readings with outside sources. Be sure to do a search for Clayton E. Kramer. See below for several of Kramer's responses to Belle-Isle work. Confiscating Guns from America's Past, there's a link to that. And then there's also Why Footnotes Matter, Checking America's Claims. So, yeah, dig into that because it's very interesting. Now, paper topic selection is also due this week. This discussion focuses on your historiographic essay topic. There is no approved format, so to speak, for this, so be creative. Please provide 3 possible topics that you could use for your historiographic due in week 10. For each topic, include first what you would like to study, briefly describe the topic and why you're interested in the topic. Not all of us may even know the topic at all. With that, you include a short statement of the research strategy that you will employ to further define your scope, especially the range of historians and their work that you must consider. Are you using recent, say since 1990, sources to examine the present state of the debate? Or are you looking deeper into the past, say the early 1900s or even the late 1800s, to trace the chronological development of the historiography? End the paragraph above, which describes your topic and then talks about the research a bit. End that paragraph with a proposed how or why research question to focus your research, though the how or why question is less important than the topic area itself. A bibliography of 3 to 5 potential scholarly sources. Be sure to include several of the important scholars that have contributed to our understanding of that topic. For this discussion, you must post your initial posting with your topic selection no later than Wednesday at 11:55 p.m. local time of week 2. By Saturday of 11:55 p.m. local time, you must respond to at least one post by a classmate to offer your thoughts on his or her preferred topics. Bit more. Remember, nothing later than about 1990 is acceptable as a topic. What do I mean by that? Do I mean sources? No. And let's adjust that 1990 to 1994 because that's 30 years ago. The archives simply are not open on stuff that's happened since 1994. So there's not going to be a lot of historiography, scholarly historiography, on events since 1994. You may find a lot of political science journal or international relations journal articles, but that's not scholarly history. So your topic should be something from 1994 or earlier, and you can feel free to use scholarly history articles written since then. but no topic itself per se before 1994. I want you to explore the how and why question idea here, but for this term, the topic itself is more important. For example, one example of a how question would be, how do historians view Lee's generalship during the campaign of Chancellorsville? Operational history, especially from the Second World War on, is difficult because scholarly journal articles might be difficult to find. Even scholarly monographs might be difficult to find on operational history that has occurred since 1945. Remember, you are not arguing a point about the topic here. Rather, you are laying out the previous secondary literature. The Chicago Manual of Style quiz is now open. It is aligned with the 17th edition. The answers are all in the 14th chapter of the Chicago Manual of Style. Please note, the 17th edition does not prefer Ibid, though the quiz does. I wonder why that is. Maybe because Doc is old-fashioned and still likes Ibid and Upset and so forth. Last but not least, it's time to start thinking about your elective topics or your elective choices to finalize your degree plan. Call me during the course of weeks 3 and 4 to talk about your choices. Think about what your goals are. What do I want to do with my MA? Then your interests. If you are in the American History program, choose 2 from HI 520, 530, and 540 in sequence. So in other words, 520, 530, 530, 540. Then choose a course from any other program that complements your area of interest. Likewise, in world history, choose 2 from HI 536, 546, again in sequence, 526, 536, 536, 546. Then choose a course from any other program that complements your area of interest. If you are in military history, choose any 2 military history courses. Then choose a course from any other program that complements your area of interest. If you are in constitutional history, choose a course from another program that complements your area of interest. Call me during weeks 3 and 4, and we'll talk about this, and I can provide my best academic advice. With that, I'm done. Y'all take care, stay safe, and I'll see you around the campus. Bye-bye.